Peace.
Yo,
How you
what's
feeling?
good, yo?
How's everything going with you?
Everything good, man. Ain't complaining. Trying to stay alive in this craziness.
No doubt. Thank you for joining us this evening. This is episode 110 for everybody joining us this evening with the legendary Nine. Thank you again for joining us, Nine.
No doubt, man.
What we're going to do is take a little history lesson, remind everybody of who you are, what you've been through, and work our way up to what you currently have going on.
All right, well, that's always funny to me when it's like you got when you. Oh, by the way, y'all can cop these red rum masks. I know you filmed this, so we gonna show it
Yes.
to them later. Y'all can cop these red rum masks, man. DM me, man, and cop some merch, man. That's where the money's at for artists like me right now. It's all about the merchandise and everything. You know what I mean? Owning our product and stuff. But really, it's been um, it's been a wild journey. You know what I mean?
Right. Can you take us back to where you were born and raised?
I was born in the South Bronx, New York City. Where I was born, Webster Projects is where I grew up at, where hip hop started.
Right.
I was there as a little child. I've seen it from the beginning. I feel blessed. A lot of people be like, "Oh, you an old head." I seen it, man, from when it started, and I've also seen the effects that it's had and what it was able to do for us back then. And I've watched it turn into what it's turned into now. So it's like a movie in my head. I'm writing a book right now, and I think a lot of people it's not your typical book. It's not basically just about me and my journey, but it's about all the people that I've encountered. Like, I know them all, man. You name them, I know them,
Oh.
you
You
know?
you said you've seen it all. Can you take us back to a day in the life of Nine as a teenager growing up in New York?
Well, I wasn't even a teenager when hip hop hit. I was like 9 years old. And I remember being in my house, and I was looking out the window, and my window faced the park. And I said to my grandmother, I said, "Grandma, these dudes I didn't say dudes, but I was like, they got their record player outside." And she was like, "Huh?" Because all I knew was a record player.
Right.
I saw two record players, the speakers, whatever. I said, they got their record player. She's like, "Oh, God, close that window. I don't want to hear that." But after I said that to her, I never said another word to her for about 4 hours because I was stuck in the window listening to bum, 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 bum. Ladies and gentlemen, bum, 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 and Apache, boom, da, 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 over and over and over with some guy going, "Yes, yes, y'all, to the beat, nonstop, all freaking night." And I stood there and watched it. But one of the things that I really noticed was during that time in the South Bronx, New York, Puerto Ricans and blacks were like the Ku Klux Klan and the Nation of Islam. I'm going
Right.
to keep it 100. And anybody who's really from that time know Puerto Ricans and blacks, it wasn't rocking like that. We was at war.
Mm.
And I saw a gang of Puerto Rican guys in the park that usually where the blacks be at. And I said, "Well, why they not fighting?" And I said, "Oh, here they go. They're going to start fighting." But they wasn't fighting. They were breakdancing
Mm.
against each other, like battling, like the crews with the gang jackets and stuff. They were dancing against each other. And I was fascinated by it, like, wow. And from that next day, like that music, it brought people together so much. It's something I can't even describe. It's the way the world is now. But imagine that on a minor scale of
Right.
you seeing people come together and shake hands and compete in this hip hop b-boy thing, and nobody's stabbing each other and everybody's cool. And that's what my first introduction to it, and that's what hip hop was.
Right. What kind of obstacles did you have to endure growing up in New York early on?
You name it. You know what I mean? You name it. Every single one you could possibly think of. Like, especially during that time, when I came of age, it was the 80s,
Right.
and I'm gonna say the early 80s from like 80 to 83 was beautiful. We really believed if you went to school and you got your high school diploma and you applied for a job, you could get a job and you could be just like your parents. You could be a sheep. We didn't understand what it was. I didn't understand it then, but you could really be a sheep. You could do your thing, go to work, come home. You could raise a family. You as a black man, you could walk around with your chest out, taking care of your family, even though it's in the projects. You're paying the rent. It made them feel like men. And
Right.
then crack came,
Mm.
and that was it.
Can you take us back to some of your earlier influences before you got into hip hop? What was Nine listening to musically that was influencing him earlier on?
Well, I grew up. I grew up. My mom's they had records. I'm so grateful that they had. This is how I was able to separate talent from why I'm not impressed by anybody who makes hip hop. But I'll explain that later. It's not a disrespect, but
Right.
the talent that I grew up listening to, I was introduced to Bob Marley so early. Like that's my hero. You know, Bob Marley, Marvin Gaye. My uncle listened to Jimi Hendrix, and he used to tell me how great this man was, and I would sit there, hey Joe. So that's what Earth, Wind and Fire, Michael Jackson, James Brown, like Temptations, like this is the music that played in my house. I had no idea what hip hop could be, or that, oh, I'm hearing this stuff and it's hip hop. I wasn't that guy. I just loved music.
Right.
I also knew I wanted to do something musically. I always felt like it, but back then, the talent level to be a musical artist was up here. You know, it wasn't like a bunch of kids, oh, we could just do something and make something. So when hip hop came along, we felt like, wow, we could do something not only that sounds good and makes us feel good, but it's something that those guys couldn't even do. The guys we looked up to. So we might not be as talented. I can't play the horn like, my uncle was into jazz and I would listen to Bird and he would explain to me and I couldn't feel it, but because I just didn't know what it was, but he would explain like, listen to this horn, listen to the, and he was so excited. But then I found hip hop and hip hop made me feel the way he felt about that music. So, it was a process of watching it
Right.
and just growing up with it. Like if there's anyone growing up hip hop, I grew up hip hop.
Can you take us back to how you got involved with hip hop? A lot of MCs would say they were DJs first, would do graffiti. How did Nine get into hip hop? What was his first foray into hip hop?
Well, like I said, after I heard that music outside, it took about a couple more years for me to realize that, me and my friends, we could do this. But, everybody had everyone had a record player in their house.
Right.
So we used to do this thing called finger popping. And we had a little cassette. And somebody had to stand there and press pause and record, let it go, and then press play. And we would take the record and bim, 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 and make a tape. With a pad, you get kind of good at it. You hit the needle and it go right back to the spot. You be like, woo! And you make your little pause tape. So then, after you make your pause tape, you could write rhymes, or you could try to write rhymes. Because usually we would just copy the guys we said. Most of these guys would say the same rhymes. You would hear this guy say it, then you would hear. So it still hadn't developed into an artistical thing. It was just something to do that felt good, and we had fun doing it. So I wouldn't say DJ, because I did eventually get 2 turntables and learn how to cut and all that stuff. But I always looked like, I wanted to be a forefront dude. And back then, a DJ, he was just a guy playing records. I wanted to rap. So
Right.
I started writing little rhymes and little stuff. And I met some friends of mine, and we ended up forming a little rap group. We was like 14, 15. The group was called Ultimate Four. And we would we would do the parks. We'd go to Valley Park. Like now that I look at it, I see how big it was. But like we was like the undercard guys that would rap at the Valley or Echo Park or something, and then Cold Crush and the big guys would come out.
Right.
But we could tell our friends like, yo, I was rhyming at that park, and then Cold Crush, came afterwards, because Cold Crush 4 was everything to us. They were Prince, Michael Jackson. They were, when Cold Crush 4 came through, a Fantastic Five or the Funky Four. But for me, it was Cold Crush 4.
Right.
Grandmaster Caz, who's my big brother right now, is wild. I'm friends with this guy who I saw him rap and said, I want to be him. I wanted to be him. I
Right.
wanted to rhyme like him. I wanted to be Grandmaster Caz. You know what I mean? Like, if I could, I was like, oh, he was like, You know what I mean? He was James Brown to me. He was everything. When Cass came out and started rhyming, the way he made all of us feel and how good he was, it was just amazing to me. And I wanted to be like him. You
At what
know?
at what point did you start taking the writing serious?
Well, I mean, I was with a group but the thing is, I grew up in an area. When I moved from the South Bronx, I moved to the Northeast Bronx. And once I got to the Northeast Bronx, there was a whole bunch of people that was just into this, that was talented, that was, you know what I mean? And I was around them, and then there were rival crews, there were other rappers. You know, that's how I met Third Eye, Jesse West.
Yeah.
He was in a group. We went to high school together. He was in another group, and I was in one group. And people would always say, yo, you nice, but you can't fuck with Jesse West. And they would tell him the same thing, you nice. And my name was Ricochet at the time. You can't fuck with Ricochet. And it would make us push and like, you know, you wanted to be better. But I knew I was one of the top 3 to 4 guys rapping in that area at my age, because most of the guys, like I said, they were older than us. Kaz and them, 5, 10 years older than us. We were little kids watching them. So they was my inspiration. But I started to realize that I was one of them dudes. When I would go to parties and I would battle on the street and I would just crush everybody, like freestyle off the top of my head. Like I lived and breathed hip hop. So I was murdering shit. And I was like, yo, I'm one of the top dudes.
Right.
So when you be that top dude in like an 8-block area or a 20-block area, you just want to keep chasing it. You know? You want to keep getting better.
At what
Now
point
you
did
want
you
to...
meet
Oh, hold on 1 second, brother. I know we live. It's the
Okay.
weed man.
Yeah. Are you all
This
good? You all good? Live and uncut.
oh shit. This will be great footage though, because we can't front on this. This is my nigga Box. What up, Box? Yeah, what's good? How do? That's the
What
weed. I
up,
hope
yo?
I ain't incriminating you. Snatch me that real quick. Y'all seeing it live right now. This is how we get down. Live and direct. I gotta pay that note and we will be right back to business. Let me just pay that note. Make sure you film all this so they can see how real it is.
It's
My
real in the
brother, I
field.
appreciate you, my nigga. I do. I'll talk to you later. All right. Yeah, yes, for sure, my nigga. Yo, hit me tomorrow. All right. Yeah, man, a little weed break. I had to cop that.
It's all good. Magic moments. They can only catch stuff like this on this show.
Yeah, this shit is live, man. It's actually live, you know.
Can you take me back to meeting Tito Navedo?
Oh, man, wow. So, like I said, when I was in this little rap group, I had my little group and shit, and we went to this club on Boston Road where DJ Breakout and the Funky Four is from. See, a lot of people, when I say these names of these people, they be like, wow. Like, I used to walk by these guys every day. We used to walk to
Crazy.
the store and stare at them and point like, yo, that's Breakout. That's Sha-Rock. Oh, shit, that's Cool Keith, Rodney C. Like, we used to point them out, and, like, they would walk around. Like, being a star back then was walking around, and everybody knew who he was. You know, I used to see Slick Rick walking up there. I used to ride the train with Slick Rick in the morning going to work. Like, yeah, that's that dude, Slick Rick. You would never say nothing to him, but you would always be like, yo, that's that guy I saw at the park. That's him. We still had no idea what hip-hop was going to become.
Right.
So to us, those were shining moments. Like, and we didn't have cameras. You couldn't take pictures. You know,
Right.
you couldn't, and you was taught not to sweat nobody. So you wouldn't walk up to him and be like, yo, you know, you just look and be like, yo, man. And he would just nod his head. And, you know, that was a big thing. So I saw him, my partner, who became my partner. I was in a group called Ultimate Four. And I met, my friends, another guy in the group, he knew Tito.
Okay.
And I was like, yo, who's this dude rapping at this party? He's dope. Like, you know, he's fresh, or whatever word we was using. Like, he's fresh. So, you know, they just called him over, like, yo. He was like, yeah, I know them brothers, what's up? And I started rhyming, he started rhyming. So we had the group, he joined the group Ultimate Four. And later on, me and him became Deuces Wild, Deuces is Deaf. Yeah, he lived next door to Chuck Chillout. And Chuck Chillout was not Chuck Chillout. He was DJ Steele.
Gotcha.
But he was a DJ from just the neighborhood, but he had a little rap. But Chuck was crazy, you know. And he saw us rapping in the little, you know, stuff. And then when he I mean, I was there when he got offered Hot 97. I mean, 98.7 Kiss.
Ah, dope.
And actually, that was Vincent from Vintertainment Records who had Keith Sweat. He
Right.
approached Chuck about doing this record called 2-3 Break. And Chuck was like, he was completely not interested. He's like, I ain't DJing no more. We was little kids. He was like, come on, Chuck. You can do this, man. Do this, man, to be fresh. You know what I mean? And he made the song, and most hip hop heads will know 2-3 Break.
Right.
Just a DJ record. And he made that record and changed his name to Chuck Chill Out. And then he got the phone call maybe 5 months later to be on Kiss FM. After that, I just knew, we down with him, we down, you know what I mean? But even before that, I was with Pumpkin. Rest in peace, Pumpkin. That's King of the Beat. People might not know he produced Heartbeat for Churches 3.
Mm.
He did, all the early hip hop records that you hear. Whip It by Disco 4, this guy, this guy. We used to watch him play. He lived in the same block as Chuck, right next to Vincent. So like I said, I came up in an area full of dudes who were a lot older than me, but they all was on their way,
Gotcha.
you know. So, my story of the industry was simple because Pumpkin, my DJ was DJ Galaxy, Scratch on Galaxy, who was the DJ for Jekyll and Hyde later on. But he did some cutting and scratching for Pumpkin. Andre Harrell heard it, and they stole my DJ. you know, he
Ah,
was so good, and he was like, "Guys, I'm not gonna leave y'all." I was like, "Man, you get one shot like this." So when he joined Jekyll and Hyde, he brought Mr. Hyde to my house when I was 15 years old, and I started rapping for him. And he was like, "I gotta let Andre hear you," which is Dr. Jekyll, and that's how Andre Harrell became. He became my manager.
mm.
And rest in peace, Andre. I love him, man. He was, when people say stories about someone who's gone, and then, a lot of people wonder, will they say that about everybody?
Right.
Now, Andre Harrell was that dude, man. You gotta, but he would make you understand. You gotta believe in yourself, and you gotta listen. I didn't listen to a lot of things that he said, which took me so long, but I just wasn't ready. I look at it, I just wasn't ready. So I was like almost the first artist. Me and Tito, Deuces Wild. Well, we're like gonna be the first group on Uptown,
Mm.
but we was hard headed. We was street dudes, carrying guns, selling drugs. Like I was into all of that, And Andre was like, until you leave that bullshit alone. But he helped me. He cultivated me. He helped me get to the point where, we met Flex.
Right. And that's when you guys formed Deuces Wild, correct?
Right. We was Deuces Wild. We didn't have a DJ because he left, and then I met Flex. He was DJing. I was introduced to Flex by Galaxy. And we was mad young, like 17. And Flex was DJ. His name was just Funkmaster at the time, DJ Funkmaster. And he was DJing for this guy named Rembrandt, who was really like a dope MC from the Northeast Bronx that nobody will ever hear about. You know what I mean? But at the time, growing up, he was one of those dudes that make you go, I gotta tear his head off. Because that's all it was about. It wasn't about I want to be friends with you, I want to make songs with you. It was about I gotta be better than you.
Right.
That's what hip hop taught us. You would find the guy who was the best guy, and you would study him, and you would try to surpass him. Because we had no idea this was going to lead to any money or anything. It was
Right.
all about reputation and shit. So after when I already knew, like we was looking for a DJ 2 days before we did the Chuck Chill Out promo. I heard Funkmaster DJing in my man's basement, and I was like, "Yo, who is that?" He was like, "Yo, that's Funkmaster," and he was just dope. The cutting and scratching and his attitude. He was like Jam Master G, Flex, and he loved hip hop. Regardless of what a lot of people think about him now, like I don't even know him now. It's not we'll get into that if you want to, but at the time, this was a kid who shared my dream with the same passion that I did. We just loved this shit. And you can't explain to somebody who doesn't love hip hop at an early age what it feels like to meet people that love that shit as much as you. and want to talk about it and be about it and go to the shows and buy the records and listen to it together. And there's nothing like that to form a friendship. So we formed a quick bond because we both, we had the same passion for the music, you know.
As Deuces is Wild, you guys released quite a few singles. Why did Tito end up leaving the group?
Well, he didn't.
Okay.
He didn't leave the group. What happened was we went through a bunch of stuff, and we were so close to getting signed as a group, with Chuck, and we was under Chuck and Chip and Cool Chip. We had Bronxwood Productions and all of that, and like life just took over. Everybody, was doing well. I mean, Flex was in school. He was trying to become a chef. I mean, Flex can cook his ass off. I niggas might hate him on the radio, but ask that nigga to make you a hamburger. That shit gonna be crazy. He was in culinary school. I was working, and then me and Tito, we got into the streets. We started hustling. We started selling. Tito became a pimp at one point with actual prostitutes. Like, I've lived it all. I've been around it all. Like, he became that. And what happened was, we went through so much in the streets and violence and abusing drugs as well as selling drugs that it came a point in my life where it was like, yo, I'm going to do this rap shit. I'm going to change my name to Non-Double M, and I'm going into this shit. What you want to do? And I mean, I'm talking to a guy who's getting it off the streets. And he was like, man, whatever. And I made my decision. I'm out of here. I'm going solo. And that was 1990, 1989, the end of 1990, maybe the beginning of 1990. I said, I'm going to do this by myself. And by that time, I had met Rob Lewis, who produced on Cool Chip and Chuck Chillout's album.
Gotcha.
So once I met him, he started giving me beats.
What was the game plan moving forward with Funkmaster Flex at this point?
Well, we were still gonna do it. Like, I ended up, there's an EP floating around out there right now. It's a demo tape called Death of a Demo. It was me and Funkmaster Flex. I mean, he wasn't really a DJ who produced beats. He didn't make beats. You know what I mean? It was the old school DJ thing. The Jam Master Jay, Run DMC shit. You didn't expect him like Eric B. Eric B didn't produce the records. It was Eric B and Rakim, though. Cool G Rap and Polo. So Flex was there, and I guess he wasn't. I know for a fact now he didn't see himself as that because he climbed up through the radio with our relationship with Chuck. Like, me and Flex was Chuck Chillout's record boys. We used to carry the records to Hot 97. And I'm the reason Public Enemy records broke on the radio. A lot of he'll never give me credit for it. He can get mad at me. But I used to pester him. I used to be like, yo, you got to play this. And the song was called Bum Rush the Show. It was the Bum Rush the Show album. The song was called Time Bomb. And I used to beg Chuck, yo, you got to play this record. This group called Public Enemy, you got to play this record. And me and Flex had a car, and we would drive him to the station and carry his records. We would do his bidding. Like, when people say they pay dues, they have no fucking idea what paying dues means.
Right.
We paid dues. Flex paid, we paid dues. So we would ride around with him and do all that stuff. So Flex had started to make moves into the industry and on the radio that had nothing to do with being a part of a rap group. Which kind of explains where
you guys ended up. Go ahead.
Go ahead.